Those who enjoy language studies will also find Spice entertaining, as it provides a glimpse into the progress of language. Spice outlines the history of each phrase and gives insight to the popularity of the phrases as far back as the 1500s. Our oldest phrases that were originally composed in English are by Philip Sidney, Edmund Spenser, and Thomas Orwin, written in 1590. Our oldest translated phrases come from the works of Ovid, Aristotle, and Paul the Apostle. Each phrase's history provides unique insight into the trends of the English-speaking world. These histories are best represented by the timelines and graphs included with Spice Mobile. In tracking the life and death of many phrases, we were surprised by the death of some and the rebirth of others. If you do a Google book search on the phrase persuasive blandness, you will find over 120 hits. Fewer than 10 of the hits will be original uses. The phrase was used originally 3 times in the 20 years before George Eliot included it in the novel Romola in 1862. After that, the phrase was only used 3 times over the next 150 years. We thought it had many potential uses, and were surprised by its virtual death. We discovered that some phrases shifted in their nuance. Suitcase war, a phrase so often associated with suicide bombing and terrorism in the 21st century, was first used in 1909 by a Hamilton College administrator in the school's literary magazine to describe some move-in day mayhem. Then, in the early 2000s, with a change in airline baggage policy, news reports refer to the rising prices and constant policy changes as suitcase war. Even with this recent shift in connotation, the implications of suitcase bombing, first used in the mid-1940s, prevail. The addition of a descriptor, or even the subtraction of an article, changes both a phrase's meaning and its history. A blast of desolation was composed in a magazine article in 1827. Removing the article reveals Anne Radcliffe as the author of Blast of Desolation, nearly 40 years earlier. Phrases like a civilized prose, halo of her love, and the paradise of the unconscious have vastly altered meanings and histories when one pronoun changes gender or when one word is added. Spelling changes had a similar effect on a phrase's history. Shakespearean phrases were selected from modern publications with updated spellings. After research, we changed each phrase to the spelling found in the original quarto or folio. A few of the phrases attributed to Shakespeare were actually written by someone else a few years before. For example, if you were to conduct an internet search for wanton modesty, you would receive around 1,000 hits in Google Books, most quoting Shakespeare. Upon further examination, you will discover the Shakespearean spelling in Lucrece is actually wanton modesty. Now, if you search for this revised phrase, you will find Sir Philip Sidney is much more prominently quoted. The publication of Sidney's The Countess of Pembroke's Arcadia predates Shakespeare's published Lucrece by 4 years, so credit for the phrase wanton modesty is awarded to Sidney. The same was true for the phrase a shadow's shadow. The phrase is found in Shakespeare's 1623 folio version of Hamlet. 17 years earlier, it appears in the preface to the anonymous play Nobody and Somebody, with the true chronicle history of Elidure. Nobody was an iconic satiric character at the time, and literary critics believe Shakespeare knew the play Nobody and Somebody. This phrase's repetition in Shakespeare's first folio may indicate a culture of borrowed language in Elizabethan theater, but it also might reveal the familiarity and popularity of this particular phrase. Either way, it certainly raises some interesting questions. Changing one word or altering a phrase's spelling can significantly change a phrase's history. During selection and editing, we did not look at every variation of a phrase. This was partly an unintended consequence resulting from editing without the original context of the phrase. The decision also stemmed from our attempt to hone in on phrases exemplifying originality and creative stimulation. We are aware of this problem in our research. One day we may change the standard to include the various syntactic, orthographic, and metaphorical forms of a phrase. Until then, enjoy searching through spice with the knowledge that our primary goal is creative inspiration rather than etymology.